This is video 1.1, importing, cleaning, and converting data. After opening Excel, our first step will be using the import wizard to load the CSV file entitled salesdata.csv. I have already downloaded it from the Doc Sharing tab under Week 1 and have saved it on my desktop. You can access the import wizard by clicking on the Data tab, then selecting the From Text option, and then navigating to wherever it was you saved or your CSV file is located. And while you're doing that, make sure that this text files option is the correct one, so it will find it and select it, and then you can import it. Excel brings up the text import wizard. It's a three-step process. It recognizes it as a limited file, and it shows you what the current structure is. If we click finish, what it would be inside Excel. There's still some more sort of work to be done. If you look at some of these things don't quite line up correctly, and so we'll take the next step. We're not quite ready to finish yet. Excel has decided that it will use tabs as a delimiter. We don't want to do that, so we click off the tab and select comma instead, and now something much more better appears in the preview window. Next step, Excel gives you the option of importing or not importing a column. It selects all of them by default, but if there's a particular column you know you're not going to be interested in, you can eliminate it from the import function. It also assumes that general is the best option as far as formatting is concerned, and since general converts numeric values to numbers, date values to dates, and all the remaining values to text, that's a great option to select as well if you're not sure. We click finish. It says, do you want to start this in A1? I say, you bet. And I click OK, and now it has imported that. So we've imported, this concludes the import step, and we're ready to start data cleaning. What I'm going to do is go to the bottom of the file by hitting Control-N. It takes me to the far right-hand corner of the data set. We see that we have 2,156 actual items here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to generate a few errors to sort of help us along here. Pay attention to what it is I'm doing here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change seafood to SFD. I'm going to change Denmark just to test out to something like that. Test out the spell checking operations. Then what I'll do is come over here, and I'll be looking for what are called outliers. These are very small or very large numbers, and that we want to eliminate from our analyses so they don't bias it. And so I'm going to change this to a 0, and that's something that we probably don't want to be giving away any of these products. So 0 is not something I would be expecting. And I'll also include a very large number. Maybe somebody typed in the wrong thing, or there just was some sort of anomaly going on here that's much too big. There. And finally, what I will do is I'll generate a duplicate entry to make sure that Excel is capable of finding that. So in this particular case, we don't expect we'll do a copy. We don't expect to see the same exact transaction with the same exact values. So I'll do that. And now what I will do is navigate back up to the top. Spell checker is actually in the review tab. So if I click on that, there is a spell checker. And what I want to do is select the whole column. If I don't select the whole column, Excel will start spell checking across, and it will find things you don't really care about. So I select the entire column, do a spell check for category name. It looks for a while, and yes, indeed, it did find this seafood problem. So I'll change that back to seafood. Make sure I spelled it correctly. Change it, and we're done. I'll go back up to the top again by hitting Control Home, and this time I'll do the country. Do a spell check on it, and sure enough, it found the Denmark problem. I'll type in Denmark spelling, double check and make sure it's correct. Do a change here, and so I've spell checking is complete. Go back to the top with Control Home, and now I'm ready to take a look at the outliers. The easiest way of doing that is really selecting this column and just doing a sort. And in review, there is no sort button here, so I can go to data and click on, say, high to low sort. Excel asks me if I want to expand the selection because I've only selected the column. And if I happen to say no and click this button, Excel will only sort this column, so it will mess up this whole data set. So I do definitely want to leave it here. I do a sort, and there is my 0 amount that I know is not correct, and I remember changing it from a 12. If I don't know what it is, I could probably do a little investigation and find out what the normal unit price is from a price catalog or whatever. And I can also select this guy again and do now a high to low to identify. And again, I want to leave it alone, expand the selection. And again, I've got my way out of bounds number here. Change that also back to 12. So I've done fairly quickly some nice little cleaning operations here, and we're ready to do some data conversion in terms of generating a new column. One thing I notice is I have a purchase price and I have a discount. So I may be interested in knowing what the total of gross is price by multiplying this column by that column. Pretty easy to do. I'll call it total gross and hit plus. Come over here and select that one and then multiply it by selecting that one, hit enter, and I've got that one. And then I also might want to know what my total discounts amounts are, so I can say total counts and come over here and take the total gross, multiply it by the discount amount. Give me that. Total gross times this guy. There we go. Double click on the column here. And now I can say total net, my gross, minus my net, my discounts rather, and that's that one. Now, one of the things I want to do is I'd like to format. So right click, select and right click and do a format cells. This is all going to be currency, so I'm good to go there. Click on that, leave it at 2 decimal places, say OK. And I need to copy this formula all the way down to 2100 rows, which it could be kind of an onerous task, except there's a really easy way of doing it. Just highlight where you would be normally dragging it and double click on it really fast, and Excel will fill in everything all the way down to the bottom for you. And now I need to make it a little bit larger so that I don't get those ugly pound signs. All right, so now I've taken some data and converted it into new observations that I can analyze. Another thing I might want to do is convert a variable, a continuous variable, into a categorical one. Group things into categories. So let's think about the unit purchase price. And that's, I might want to say, I'd like to know what the high items are and as purchase price and the low items, so I know if I'm selling more high items in total gross and low or whatever. I can do that. And let's just say for simplicity's sake, I want just to have a high category and a low, and I want to split it right in the middle of all my data. I want to divide my data into half. If I ranked ordered everything from low to high, carve it in the middle, and that's called a median. So what I can do is I can go down again to the end of my data set, come over here to the bottom of this column. I can use Excel's function to look and search for median. In this particular case, I've already done it recently, so that's what that is. It just basically takes it sorts this in order and then finds the middle value there. So if I say OK, and that's the range, and it looks good to me, and it generates all that, and that's the sorted order. So in fact, it says right here that's the value is 18.4. So that's the median value is 18.4. So remembering 18.4, I can go back to the home and come over here, and I can say that I'll use the if function, Excel's if function. And if I come over and just mouse over this and select that, and it tells me what the structure of the if function is. The if function is a logical test. It's very, very useful, especially when you're constructing variables and doing some analyses. And it says if you have a logical test, that's one that ends in true or false, it gives you this value of true and that value is false. So what I want to do is say, all right, if this unit price, and I'll just go here, click on that guy, and it puts him in there. If that unit price is less than 18.4, okay, if that's true, put a comma in there. I want to put in the word low. Otherwise, I want to put in the word high. Hit enter, and it did it correctly. Okay, so I'll call this price level. Now, and I'll use the same trick again to duplicate all the numbers below. I can also do almost sort of basic analyses here as well. One thing I could do is, let's say, for example, I've heard that our salespeople are actually only selling things, mostly a lot of them, the last week of the month, and that's and that they're sort of on cruise control the first week or two, and the last week they are doing a lot and selling most, which is not really very efficient because all our orders pile up toward the month end. We don't ship correctly. We have a lot of problems shipping and getting things out when they cram everything in the last week of a month. So I'd like to take a look at that, and what I want to make sure that I do it by salesperson as well. And I've already sort of worked through a formula here, and rather than boring you with typing it out, let me just put it in here and explain how it works and what it does. Okay, so if you look up here, what I've done is bit by bit. I've taken the salesperson's last name in B2, okay, and then I did my if function, and I'm saying if the day, the number of the day in E2, and that would be like June the 3rd, so that would be a 3. If that's less than a 7, I'm going to put the week number in there, which is 1. Okay, if that's true. If it's false, that means it's greater than 7. If that's less than 14 or equal to 14, I'm going to put the number 2 in there. If that's false, then I'm going to test it for 3. If that's false, I know it's a 4. It's somewhere over it's over 21, 22 through maybe even 31. So I can do that here, and if I hit enter, okay. So here I have the corrected formula, and it starts out by taking the last name from B2, and then a series of if statements embedded inside this first set of parentheses. I'm sorry, parentheses here. So I say if day, that's a function that in Excel, it gives you the day number from the date, is from E2, this guy right here, is less than or equal to 7, then if that's true, I assign the number 1 because that's going to be the first week. If it's false, then I look and see if it's less than or equal to 14. If that's true, it's 2. Otherwise, I look and see if it looks less than or equal to 21. If that's true, it's a 3. And if it's not a 3, then it has to be a 4. So and I've joined it with the last name. So this gives me a nice little analysis tool, sort of embedded within my my data set already inside here by combining and looking at an analysis of which week it is, combining it with the last name. So now I can do sorts and some other stuff later on, you'll see, that might show me if this is true, if in fact the salespeople tend to do more things in week 4 than in week 1, or the reverse. So that concludes this video of importing, cleaning, and converting data.